Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Today we have very tall leaders from the industry with us. We have Mr. Rishi Gupta, who's the MD and CEO of Fino Payments Bank, in conversation with our very own Mr. Suresh Mahalingam, who's a business consultant, independent director, and former MD and CEO of Tata AIA Insurance. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, and I hope you are having a beautiful day. To take the conversation forward, may I pass on this baton to now Mr. Suresh Mahalingam to open with his opening thoughts. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Himanshu, and welcome, Rishi. I promise this is going to be a very interesting conversation. Unlike general conversations, we'll try and do some story building. We'll try and get your own life experiences, and there are some very good things that you've achieved in the payments bank space. I think it's important for people to understand what have you achieved, not just from a rural perspective, but from a technological perspective, from a leadership perspective. And in these very challenging times, it's important for a lot of listeners who have tuned in, and good morning listeners who have tuned in, to understand what makes the cutting edge, the difference between a good leader and an effective leader. And so we will take you through that journey. The conversation will be split into two parts. The first part, Rishi, would be more in terms of the nature of the industry, and so that we can pick up some knowledge of how you've been successful from a payments bank perspective. And the second aspect of the conversation will be more on leadership attributes and leadership traits. And that is where you could relate your own examples of your life journey, your current employment, previous employment, which can kind of condense together, and we'll synthesize the entire conversation from that perspective. So let me try and begin and then give a context of who this Rishi Gupta is all about, and we'll set the context from that perspective. So ladies and gentlemen, a prolonged and complete lockdown has serious adverse consequences for the economy, business, and workers. Economic activity has come to a grinding halt, and the supply chain disruptions have been massive, although we are improving. The longer the lockdown persists, the deeper will be the impact on growth, on aggregate demand, increased stress to the financial and banking system, job losses, and potential other difficulties. We've always talked about the VUCA world. Interestingly, the world now is increasingly volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. What does this mean for leaders like Rishi or for other leaders? How do you sustain the long haul are some aspects which this conversation will try to unravel. Is there a framework? Is there a mantra? Is there a secret to become a successful leader? And how does one sustain the current dynamics and still think beyond the bend and drive the organization's growth? Today, we have with us Rishi Gupta, MD and CEO of Fino Payments Bank. Rishi is one of the few leaders who has demonstrated the capability to see beyond the bend, even in uncertain times, and successfully steered the organization to profitability. Fino Payments Bank has become profitable in March 20 quarter within 2.5 years of its operations. Truly a remarkable achievement. COVID-19 has had negligible impact. The Q1 21 results of Fino Payments Bank are expected to be PAT positive. They have catered to 15 crore plus customers in the year 20 and served 2 crore plus people in the lockdown period. The bank is strategically placed to leverage its diverse execution platforms, strong technological capabilities, and national footprint to meet customers' needs. Fino Payments Bank is the only entity in its space that has experience in providing technology-enabled banking services, more so in unbanked and underbanked areas. In Rishi's own words, in line with our COVID strategy, and COVID, please understand, I reiterate what COVID stands from Rishi's perspective, creating opportunities in virus-infected days, okay? Creating opportunities in virus-infected days. That's the new norm for COVID. We will continue to explore ways to improve banking access, build partnerships, increase transactions, and hence enhance customer experience. So gentlemen, we have in front of us a remarkable leader. Welcome, Rishi. We will split this conversation into two parts for the benefit of the listeners. The first part will be on industry so that you could give us some knowledge about the industry and what you have done in your journey. And the second part, we will dwell into leadership and leadership attributes and what are the transformations we require to go ahead. So the first question to you, Rishi, for the benefit of listeners, if you could give a quick overview of the payments bank space, what are the future trends which you feel will happen in this category? And if the trends are disruptive, are there things that are bothering you? And if you could give us examples of some situations.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you for a generous introduction. Hello, friends. Hello, everybody who is there on the webinar. So let me just start with giving a little background about Fino. And Fino is a 14-year-old company. We are promoted by ICICI Bank, Bharat Petroleum, Blackstone, and likes of other investors like IFC, Intel. The journey of Fino started with making banking possible for the masses, for the underbanked and the unbanked people. Our focus of the bank has always been more rural. Our focus of the bank has always been to cater to lower income groups. And we are largely started as a business correspondent for many banks initially. And then in 2015, RBI gave us a license to convert our business correspondent business into a payments bank business. I would also like to state at this stage is that when I started my career about more than 2 decades ago, and Suresh, at that time, my interest I was in Maruti Udyog, and my interest was to get into financial services and banking. So I applied, and with great difficulty, I got job into ICICI Limited. At that time, my only dream was to work for a bank and a financial institution. Never in my life I could imagine that I will get an opportunity 20 years later to start a bank of my own. So that's where the power of I would say focus in terms of getting into a particular area and then moving in that area, doing better and better. I think that dream which was there, if starting a bank, is very few individuals, I would say, get this, because bank is a licensed entity. You have to get approvals from Reserve Bank to start a bank. So in the last 3 years of our journey as a payments bank, our focus has been into expanding the network. Right now, we have around 4.5 to 5 lakh merchants all across the country. Our endeavor is that we try to bring all kind of financial services, whether it's with regard to liabilities, whether savings account, whether it's remittances, whether it's current account, whether it's money transfers, whether it's insurance, whether it's credit products. We should bring all kinds of products for our customers in this segment. And I would like to also bring a little bit of anecdote here is when we started our journey, Suresh, 14 years back. That time, very few people actually believed in the concept, how can you do banking outside a bank branch? ATMs had started and they were doing well, but still the people were coming to the branch. So initially when we went to a lot of banks that we want to do pocket banking, we want to do banking at the doorstep, there's a lot of resistance, a lot of anxiety which was there. But there were few leaders who were receptive to this idea. And when we went to the field to capture, that time Aadhaar was not there. The UID program started in around 2010-11. Before, we used to capture the biometric of all the people we used to enroll, and we used to issue them a smart card. Ladies used to come out and when we used to take the photographs, they used to be dressed up all well. And there was a big identity crisis which was there way back 15 years back. Over the last few years, and especially because of, I would say, the JAM Trinity, the Jandan account, Aadhaar, and the mobile Trinity, which has happened, a lot of this anxiety, a lot of this sectoral or infrastructural issues have been resolved because of technology, because of Jandan accounts which have come up. A lot of things have evolved in the last few years, and I would say that what we have achieved in the last 14 years, right now, if we try to do this, we probably can do it in the next 3-4 years because of the ecosystem which has developed. So a lot of focus has to be on the ecosystem. In its own journey, as the model suggests, being a rural model, low income model, has been seen a lot of ups and downs in periods where we have seen that the demonetization actually was when we were launching the bank. That time the demonetization happened and it put us back for a few months. but then we recovered post that. The model itself is somewhere constrained because as a payments bank, you cannot lend. So because of which the lending is not possible. So looking at the constraint of lending, and most of the banks are known for the asset business, not for the liability business. But right now, in this pandemic, liability has become an asset and asset has become a liability. So we are in a sweet spot where we don't do lending in the payments bank. So we are a risk-free bank from that perspective. But normally, typically, a bank is known by the asset products which they want to sell. So we are constrained because of that, but that constraint has not deterred us to get into other businesses, get into a lot of partnerships. So the entire ecosystem of Fino is developed around partnerships, technology, network, and our execution capability, which is there. And during this pandemic situation also, our teams have done really well. And the government agenda was also there to distribute crores of rupees to crores of people on the ground for the various government schemes. So we Fino was at the forefront of doing it. Our what we see in future is as a payments bank, and I would say that when we started the bank, a lot of apprehension was there. How will you make this business model viable? Is there a viability? And in your introduction, you mentioned that Fino is one of the very few profitable payments bank. So we have kind of cracked the code in terms of how do you want to do banking for the rural masses. And I would say 3-4 things are relevant when you look at this model. You have to look at that you have to be very focused into your customer target. So that is very important. You have to build products which are relevant for this. You have to build your network which are relevant for this segment. Then you have to look at your entire the partnership ecosystem which you can create with a lot of people. Today in this world where cost is very high if you set up your infrastructure, I would recommend to many companies to leverage partnerships as much as possible, because with leveraging partnerships you can bring down your cost drastically. You move away from a fixed cost model to a variable cost model. I think the second big reason for us to turn profitable was also the fact that we turned the model by moving away from fixed cost to a completely variable cost. So that's how the model has evolved. Looking into the yeah.
So I just like to interrupt there, Rishi, because I want to build on the rural. I want to build on what makes rural successful. I want to build on partnerships. I want to build on the ecosystem that you spoke about. I worked in the FMCG space and understand the rural markets, and I think no bank currently today has had a focused approach and a strategy towards addressing rural like the way you have addressed. Your focus has been rural to a large extent, and you have done a fantastic job, and that too in a limited span of 2.5 years. What is the strategy to make this successful? I mean, many companies, not just banks, but many other businesses have tried to make deep forays into the rural segment, but have not been. But is what you said a little while ago in terms of partnerships, your merchant acquisition, the right product, the right customer mix, leveraging partnership, what is the lever that has turned your rural strategy so successful? Because we are talking 20,000 plus customers, 2 crore customers over the last couple of months. I mean, these are numbers which are phenomenal, so to speak.
So in terms of the rural strategy, one thing which when we starting the bank, we were very clear is that the pyramid which we want to focus on, which part of the pyramid we want to focus on. We decided we want to focus on the lower income. We want to focus on the rural market per se. Within rural, we said that rural is very vast. So if you have to become a national player, then you cannot have a few hundred branches, maybe a few thousand branches. You will have to have a network which is across the country. So many times people believe that digitization is the way forward. Digitization is the way forward, but that is more prevalent in the top 200, 300 million people of the country. And those are largely urban population. So you have to look at a solutioning in terms of how can you make a solution which can work in rural. So fortunately for us, because we were working before as a business correspondent, so we had a lot of rural experience. We had a lot of understanding of the customer. But I think the ecosystem around technology was the first big thing which we worked on, the building up the entire technology interface. When as a bank, we decided to, as a bank, you have to have a core banking system, but you can have a front end also. we decided as a bank that we want to keep a very, very simple, intuitive front end. So the people who are going to work in rural or the customers who want to do business in rural cannot have a very complex core banking platform or a complex interface. So for our merchant, we developed a very simple interface which they could use very easily. So the technology, I think, was one big game changer. The second, I think, is the network effect, which we got. BPCL, Bharat Petroleum, is one of our largest investors. We work with them and many other partners to create this ecosystem of 4.5 lakh to 5 lakh customer points across the country. So that network is now being used to do many more transactions and engaging. And today in the pandemic situation where everything is going local, local is vocal is something which is our Prime Minister is also suggesting. Being a local merchant present and being part of essential services actually helped us to keep our shops and merchant points open for people to come and transact. So the second big is the network effect, which we got through our merchant network and the partnerships which we developed over the period of time. I think the third big impact was our focus on the products which we tried to build in. Sachet products, simple products. I'll give you one example as such. We have a very simple Shubh account. It's a saving account which is at a X amount, and that X amount you have to pay annually. You pay once in a year, and you can do as many transactions, transfers of money anytime you visit a merchant. You are not charged for every transaction. So a lot of transparency has been built up into that product per se. So in that category, now we have also launched a minor account, Bhavishya Khata, along with the Shubh account. So the focus is to bring simple products, the focus into build transparency into the entire system, and obviously banking is all about trust. And the trust from the Fino brand, which has been there for the last so many years. Recently, I did a lot of last week. In fact, this week we had our annual 14th year day. So in that, we engaged with so many teams on the ground. And one thing which repeatedly people were coming and telling me was that, sir, we now see a lot of Fino in rural. We see everybody knows about Fino. So अगर Fino से काम कर लोगे तो आपको चिंता करने की जरूरत नहीं है. So that is the endeavor. And like simple things like our technology, we open an account in 5-6 minutes. People gave us this हाथों-हाथ खाता. So they told कि Fino हाथों-हाथ account खोल देता है. Look at a situation when it takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get an account, and you are able to get in 5 to 10 minutes. So that is the power of technology, the trust, the partnership, the network which we have built around it.
So on the question of technology and digitization that you spoke about and how successfully, my belief is digital and digitalization needs to be completely embraced, more so in the current context and more so from a consumer journey. In your case, I mean, the sheer size, 20 crores, I'm just quoting the numbers that I just said a little while ago, and I'm sure the numbers will double over a period of time, and that's the journey you'll take. In my mind, the greatest challenge is probably not access to technology, but its implementation. So how have you rewired your organization over these years? I mean, and what changes are you seeing? I think one of your success is, as I see it, I don't know the inside of the organization, but I feel that you have wired and rewired consistently, and that's possibly, to my mind, a differentiator from other payments banks. They have technology, but I think going rural, going execution, doing partnership, it's a view that I have. I mean, you can expand on it.
You're absolutely right. In fact, Fino started its journey as a technology company. Our first primary objective when Fino started within ICICI, then as a separate company, was that we wanted to provide technology solutions to the microfinance and for financial inclusion. So over the years, we have actually done various government projects. Like we were the pioneers in smart card-based financial inclusion. We were the pioneers in Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, which is another smart card-based insurance. We were the pioneers in the electronic benefit transfer, which has now morphed into direct benefit transfer. So in the last 10 to 14 years, we have seen various technologies which have come together, and we are able to master that technology piece. So as I said earlier, technology has to be very simple. It has to be very scalable. It has to have a lot of speed, which is there. And digitization, to me, when I look forward, digitization will help us achieve 3 missions, which is scale, speed, and save. So that is what digitization will evolve for us over the period. So if you keep your technology, and in our technology, we have about 150 people in the company on technology, and the entire front end of the technology is hosted, developed by us completely. The back-end engines are something which we partner with a lot of people. And now in today's world, we are now tying up with a lot of startups. There are various startups with whom we are tying up, whether it's regard to consumer database, whether it's regard to NPS, whether it's regard to lat long. So I'll give you another example. We have a company we have tied up which is called lat long. This lat long technology helps us to map all our merchants all over the country with regard to their location and also with regard to the density, the GDP, the access to post office, the access to ATMs, the access to normal market. So we are able to very scientifically through AI ML, we are able to locate our merchants and we are able to develop products and solutions for that. I'll give you another example. For surveys now, people hire many companies to do surveys. With 2.5 lakh our own merchant network, we keep on sending surveys to know what kind of problems you are facing, what kind of technology roadmap do you want us to develop on, what kind of products. So few thousand, 5,000, 10,000 surveys keep on coming back. For that, you will probably require a big agency to do that. And through our own network, we are getting a lot of feedback. So feedback mechanism in any development is very, very important. So I think technology being our backbone, the way we think, technology is not something which is sitting in one corner. In all our discussions at the board, at management level, technology is right at the forefront of it. I would say the rural penetration, at least in future or right now in banking or otherwise, you cannot imagine without technology. Technology is the backbone.
Terrific. I mean, that's a very good story of how you have shaped the organization and continue to shape the organization being agile. Now, I'm shifting the questions from the industry and the category perspective to more leadership and leadership orientation. And from a relevance perspective, probably some of the aspects that one would have discussed pre-COVID would have been different versus what you're currently going to discuss. So in my mind, leadership, scale, innovation, agility, being digital ready, and more importantly, compassion towards employees and business partners will be, in my mind, the key differentiators for businesses, both during this period that you're going through and also during the process of the recovery. You have given some glimpses of some examples of how you have addressed some of these. Take us through your journey from a leadership perspective. What has been your learning? And it'll be good to hear your thoughts, Rishi.
Good.
And you don't have to cover all points. We can cover some of those points in the course of the discussions. But leadership, scale, innovation, agility. You have done scale. You have done innovation. What is working? I mean, why are you smiling?
See,
what keeps you happy? What keeps you going?
No. See, the other day in one of my panel discussion, there was one question which was asked that Rishi, if you would rewind yourself 2 years, and what would you do now if you have an option to rewind yourself? And I think it was a very, very spontaneous answer which I gave, was that I don't want to change anything. I feel so happy coming to office. I feel there is so many opportunities which are there in the business. I feel so excited with my teams. Can you imagine working in an organization, obviously being a founding member, working in an organization 14 years, if you can still have that momentum, that interest, that excitement to come to office and work every day and try to find out solution, that by itself calls to the fact that there is something which is something good which we are doing in Fino. And repeatedly I keep on getting this feedback that in Fino our leadership is very open. Our people give a lot of creativity options which are there. People are not pushed for in terms of leaving their independence somewhere. So a lot of this feedback which I get, but what I've learned is, as a leader, 4 or 5 things, and then I can talk in terms of leadership in today's world, which is very different compared to what it was previously. I think for me as a leader, I'm very fortunate, very, very fortunate, in fact, that under super leaderships, super leaders in the past, starting from my stint in Maruti, then in ICICI, then in IFC, and in Fino also under the guidance of the board. We have had excellent chairmen. Nachiket Moore was there, Sandeep Bakshi was there, now Mr. Chauhan has been there, Mr. Ashok Kini. So we are under a lot of leaders, and the lot of what I am today, I owe it to my mentors and my leaders I've been working with them for the last 20 odd years. But my 4 or 5 things as a leader, which I've built over the years, is that you need to have a very good vision and a purpose, and which your teams have to buy in, and then you can execute. The simple example to this is that the Fino journey, when we started, nobody actually believed in the vision and the purpose which we wanted to do. 14 years back, it was a completely different world. Now with technology, all those Facebook, Amazons, and Netflix of the world, the Googles of the world has changed completely. But back then there was no startup word as such. And we were a startup. We were a bunch of 3 people with 10, 20 people coming together in our middle to late 30s, starting up this business of financial inclusion, making banking possible for the masses. So the vision and the purpose has to be very clear. Second thing which I've really learned is that you have to have humility and authenticity. In humility as a person and authenticity in what you talk, which is very important. The way people see through you. You can't see. You might try to give a wrong impression or a different impression for a few days, but you can't continue like that for many years. So authenticity is super important as a leader. Third, as you rightly mentioned, empathy is important towards your employees, your customers. Delegation and empowerment of people, I think that is one area where a lot of people miss. And I believe that my job is to work only on exceptions, on strategy. The delegation has to be such that, see, I'm not paid to do job for people 2 levels 3 levels down than me. I'm being paid to do a particular category of job. But if I keep myself busy in doing jobs of people who are below me, then I'm not being fair to an organization. And so delegation and empowerment of people with the right responsibilities, I think, is the number 4 trait which is important. And fifth, as a leader, you have to take risk in life. You have to take decisions which may be risky. But my own experience, I was in Delhi till 2006, working in IFC, a multinational World Bank organization. Fino was unknown entity from Delhi moving to Bombay, but I believed in the vision which Fino was creating. So I took that risk in life and moved from Delhi to Bombay, moved from a very, very stable IFC organization to a completely startup kind of thing. So that's been my lifelong leadership traits which have been there. When I look forward, especially in this COVID situation and the uncertainty which is there in today's business and expected to continue to be like that, we actually thought that we'll have a lockdown, and now unlocking has started. But again, we are getting into a lockdown phase. We are seeing up Bombay, we are seeing many cities getting locked down, UP getting locked down. A lot of cities are getting locked down. So in today's scenario, I think 4 or 5 things which are important from is one is change is good. So that is something my message to my teams have also been, that you have to change, and change is not bad. Don't think change is a bad word. Change is a good word, and it will change you. So COVID is creating opportunities or cost optimization. So it could be both. So it depends upon which role do you play. You play a role of revenue, you create opportunities, you are working in a cost center, try to optimize cost. Secondly, you have to look at the consumer behavior which is changing. You have to change your business model with consumer behavior. A simple example is digitization. People are becoming more digital savvy. People want to become more digital aware. We are seeing more and more people coming to us on digital platforms. So digitization has to be end to end, from the sourcing till the customer satisfaction. So change your business with the change in the business consumer behavior. Third, I think, where many startups and companies actually fail, is they run for valuations. I think the three idiot story ki don't run after success. Success will come if you continue to do your job. So continue to do your job and continue to focus on profitability, sustainability. I think is super important, and especially the fact that in today's world where cash is king, it's a crime to waste cash. So only well-funded and profitable companies can do well, I think so. And you will see a switch of investors also looking at companies which are more sustainable business models than who have a very, very futuristic kind of model which is there. I think you've touched the piece of innovation. I think that is something which is super critical in today's world. As a leader, you have to be innovative. You have to look at solutions. So in my own discussion with the team, I picked up virtualization as a big tool internally in the company. So if they come and tell me any problem that on the field we are not able to do this, if there is an issue, I completely turn down and say, why can't we look at virtualization? What is stopping us from thinking out of the box? So I think innovation is very critical for our import. And then the fifth, culture of the company, I think will play a big role. As I mentioned earlier, empathy has to be there, but along with empathy, you have to build up a performance culture.
So Rishi, sorry, complete.
Gone are the days when you used to monitor the input, how much time people has clocked in coming to office. Now we are looking at output-based measurement tools.
So Rishi, like a true leader, you answered my next question, and therefore it becomes difficult for the anchor to kind of ask questions as we go forward. My next question, which you answered just now, was how do leaders reset themselves for this impact, and what will change going forward to be seen as impactful? And you very answered it so well. Change is good. Consumer behavior. I mean, adapt to the changing consumer behavior model. Be profitable. Be sustainable. Be innovation and culture. I will have two related questions on purpose and culture a little later, but I just want to ask all the viewers, please post in your questions, because some of your questions Rishi will answer. So if you have not already put questions, please start writing the questions and I can ask them. What are your three biggest challenges?
See, in terms of challenges, in fact, if I look at, we have done a hyper growth last year. We grew at 86%. We turned profitable. The biggest challenge for me is that we continue with the momentum of our growth and our profitability. At times, I am in a problem where there is business, but it is at a very low margin business. So we have to let go of some businesses just to focus ourselves on the profitability part. I think that is one big challenge which is there. The second big challenge which I look at from a business point of view is the management of this entire situation of COVID with regard to getting the teams together. See, the lot of ecosystem in offices are built up with people who come together, we sit together, and we spend time together. The socialization which used to happen in the office. Now people are not meeting that often. We are meeting virtually, but to maintain the culture of a company, when you are, and especially drive the culture and more on performance-based culture in situation like COVID, where you will not be able to meet somebody for 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. So how do you maintain the personal touch with that ecosystem? So to that, I try to do as many calls, as many VCs with my teams regularly, so that we maintain that people keep on seeing you more often than not. I think that is the second big challenge, is to maintain the culture of the company. And I think third is the fact that we have created a big network of merchants across the country, and we have to keep on engaging with them so that the stickiness of the merchants keep on going up. So coming up with relevant products and relevant themes for them, and change, and the consumer behavior which is changing from physical to digital. How do we participate more in that journey? I think those are the three big things which are challenging, and we are working on it. So it's not that we are not working on it. So we are already working on it.
Okay, interesting answer. Coming back on culture, I think you stressed the word culture a number of times, and I have a related question on culture. I strongly believe that historically, companies formulated strategy, and then there was a culture that worked around the strategy. Interestingly, in these kind of situations, I feel organizations need to define culture, because people are working from home. It's a new dimension that we are looking at it. It's very uncertain as to whether things of the past will continue to remain, and so on and so forth. So from an organizational standpoint, how are you managing your culture? Because it's a word which is very loosely used. And this is the new reset I think we need to do to be ahead of the curve. People working from home, frontline people, back-end people, technology, 20,000 customers. What do you mean to that customers? I mean, purpose, vision, all are nice statements that most organizations do. But what is the culture currently? What is the culture we need? Culture should enable strategy rather than strategy enabling culture. I think if organizations start stressing on redefining who we are, what do we stand for, what do we mean to the customer, does every single employee in the organization understand? That, to my mind, will start redefining purpose of the organization. So, from your perspective, how are things? How is this cultural dimension changing? Do you spend serious time with your one downs or with their one downs in terms of defining? I mean, is there a process? Is there a movement, or is it just this is our culture as stated? I want to hear your thoughts, Rishi.
No,
This is a subject that I'm very passionate about, and therefore the passion
I
exhibiting in my domain.
I could visibly see your passion, Suresh, especially on this question, which is there. I think it's a beautiful question. I think there is no wrong or right answer to this. It is all situational driven. It is all person driven. It is all the way the companies have been developed over the years as such. So I was, in fact, when we went into this lockdown situation end of March, we were all really worried in terms of how the business is going to shape. And I'll share some insights into the way we as management team worked on it. So we came up with this Bhagidari concept. Bhagidari concept is that we'll do a participation. So nobody knew how this situation will evolve over the next 3 months, 6 months. So it was very difficult to build businesses when in a very uncertain world. So in that kind of a situation, when you are there, you look at participation from your employees in terms of how can they help in developing your businesses. So that is where we come up with Bhagidari. So we have been engaging with our employees regularly through various messages which are there around safety and empathy. We are participating that, okay, we will cut salaries, but as the business becomes better, we'll keep on refunding those salaries cut back. And to my surprise and to everybody's surprise, people actually, the entire team rallied with you. The entire team worked in a manner that they gave more to your company. And as Fino being a bank and being part of essential services, the general view was also that you have to give back to the society. So employees have actually become more productive. We are able to engage with them on various aspects, like this annual day. We used to have it physically in Bombay every year, but this time we did it virtually. So we had some 200 odd people coming up in video conference facilities, and we actually gave them awards. So we're trying to convert all the physical things into virtual. In fact, for some people, we are able to engage with them more, because earlier we used to engage with them physically. Now being virtually, we are able to engage with them more. So the entire productivity has gone up. People want to give back to the society. There could also be a fear of being left out because of this pandemic. Many people are without jobs. So unfortunately, at least we are doing quite well. So from that point of view, the culture has changed. People are now moving from understanding from physical to virtual kind of a relationship. And in my talk with my team, I've said that physical closeness will move into virtual closeness. And that is how collaboration has to be built. So that is what the entire team, my one downs and down, that is how we are passing the messages across. A lot of videos we have made for our employees and try to build up that. Fortunately for us, because our business has been going well, the general positivity in the company is quite high, and we consider this as a better than normal year for us.
No, and is there something called the Fino Way? I mean, this is what Fino is. In your earlier comment, you made a mention that in the rural hinterland, all your customers saying, if I bank with Fino, the trust is there, I'm satisfied. And now, does that resonate with every single employee and say, things in Fino are done here, this is the way things are done here, and there is a clarity of that understanding. To me, if that is achieved, then the culture is achieved. And interestingly, many boards do not spend time understanding culture or measuring culture. And I'm of the proponent that, rather say mission statement, vision statement, and so on and so forth, somewhere down the line in these troubled times, it's important to understand where is the culture, how is the culture being measured, is there consistency down the line, are people aligned to what we're doing? Because that will drive strategy and business more successfully, and you will create a differentiator. Just a thought, Rishi, and I know some of the things that you're doing is all adding up to what you want to achieve. On the purpose, now I'm saying again, the interrelated. How are you driving purpose? I mean, I'm just saying that both are interrelated, but I mean, is there a shift in the dimensions of what you want to achieve? I mean, what does it mean to you? I mean, is there clarity?
So purpose, the first purpose for us is to meet our customer requirements. And during pandemic, where we are, as I mentioned, we are working with the lower income categories of people who remit money, who want to withdraw money, who want to do basic insurance, basic banking. For us was to keep ourselves open during this period. And luckily, being part of essential services, we could open our points across the country. So the first purpose, and we try to link it to the national importance and serving the nation agenda. So in all our messages to our employees, to our merchants, we have been saying you are all Corona warriors. You are the people who are there, going there, and rightly, Suresh, in terms of the COVID, people have opened up their branches, people have opened up their points. My field, 85% of my team is on the field. So they have been going during COVID period and trying to engage with as many customers and merchants. So you are a true Corona warrior. So that is repeatedly one message which is going to so that's defining the purpose and in mixing the purpose of the business as well as the social good which you are doing. Second is that we used to always measure ourselves in terms of revenue growth in the company, that okay, we have grown by 30%, 40%. We changed our entire metrics last year, and we started measuring ourselves on the contribution and the bottom line. And you will not believe, when the CEO and the leadership team starts looking at a different metrics, the entire team down below starts looking at only that metrics. So in my weekly reviews, we don't see revenue number at all now. We are not focused on revenue at all. We just look at what is your contribution, and every person's, every state, there's a lot of data which is now coming up. In good part is that in our 3 years of journey, we have built up a good database. A lot of information is available to us. So through that information, we are able to identify these are the people who are doing better than the others. So the performance culture is built up around the fact that we are not focusing on revenue. We are focusing on profitability, and all our matrices are based on the profitability which is there. So the purpose of serving the customer for national good and the purpose of making the business sustainable, I think both of them are gelling up quite well and getting intersected regularly. Yeah, it's been a good.
Perfect, Rishi. So we've already been chatting for 45 minutes. Before I take up the questions from the audience, a personal question to you. I've been an MD myself. You're currently doing the role. What is the biggest myth about leadership in the corner office?
No, I think, see, one thing which I've repeatedly said is that Fino, one team. And there is no single person who is important. Even I am not that important than anybody else. Everybody is important. We were going to office, and I used to go 4 times till we closed this because of the Navi Mumbai pandemic. My discussion with the team was, when our frontline guys are going to the field and risking their lives, why can't we go? Why should I not be seen in office? So because their lives are equally important as my life. So from that point of view, the discussion which is there internally is that it is never one person who makes the difference. It is always the team which makes all the differences. And never, like I've been told by my mentors, Never get passionate. Never. You get passionate with the work which you do, but don't get over protective of your position and your office, because it's like a hotel room. Today you are there, somebody will be there tomorrow.
Correct.
Don't look at your seat as permanent, and that's something. And there is always a lot of learning which is happening. I think the leader has to keep on learning with the teams.
True. So let me take some questions from the audience. Um, Question posed to you: what is the biggest hindrance in adoption of FinTech in the rural belts, and where can government come in to promote FinTech? How much is the lack of education responsible?
So when I look at FinTech, I would say the digital adoption, when we look at digital in 2 or 3 ways. One is digital is through your fingerprints, through Aadhaar payment systems, which have adopted quite well in rural. Then your debit card penetration, which is again quite well, thanks to Jandan and others, people have started to use debit cards, at least for the ATM withdrawal. They have not started using, they have started to use debit cards for now purchases from shops and others, but not that aggressive. The QR code penetration is becoming more prevalent in rural India. So the companies who are into QR based solutions are able to build up that. And I think the fourth is the app based solutioning, which is like a wallet or an app which where you can transfer. I think that is where we are seeing a bigger issue, where the first 2 3 penetrations have happened quite well. The app based penetration will happen only when people have smartphones, when they believe in that, they have trust in the transaction they can do. And the education with regard to the fact that going to physically to a branch and doing through your mobile, it is the same thing. I think that kind of literacy, it's a mind shift change which has happened internally. We talk about the fact that we should not drive consumer into a particular direction. The consumer will choose that direction if he favors that direction. So from that point, let consumer be given all the options, let him decide. And digitalization or fintech revolution will happen over a period of time, when we talk about 700-800 million people in the country who are not digitally savvy right now. But the numbers are growing.
So I think there are some related questions on financial inclusion. What are some steps that banks can take for better financial inclusion?
They can work more with Fino. So that's I think the most safest and the easiest option they have. I think the second option is the willingness. I think the leadership in the banks have to have that inclination to actually work for financial inclusion and work in rural. You look at the microfinance business.
Is there a roadblock, Rishi? I mean, that's a related question to the same question. Are there any roadblocks? And if there are, how do we solve them?
There is absolutely no roadblock. You have Aadhaar, you have technology, you have good distribution. People want to do banking. Jandan has created. So I think it is more in terms of where do you want to focus yourself as a bank. So right now, banks are able to make good money working for urban and higher income categories of customer. But you see microfinance institutions who have really focused themselves in rural. They are doing exceedingly well. You have a bank like Bandhan, which is focused on rural businesses. They are doing exceedingly well. So and as I mentioned in my opening remarks also, we have been able to crack the code. So there is no challenges, there are no roadblocks. I think the only roadblock is the mindset and the business model which the banks want to pursue.
Okay, and some more questions coming in. Have you used AI in your organization, or how will AI shape FinTech?
So AI is being used in multiple platforms. We have many tie-ups, as I mentioned to you. We have been doing Latlong is one tie-up. We are locational wise. We are identifying. We are now able to, through another tie-up, we are able to. Quick Metrics is another company. We are able to identify that if there is a feedback which we are getting on our platform on the social media, we are able to move it into a complaint or some lead. Automatically it gets moved on into that direction. Then we are working with another company called CleverTap, where we are working with them in terms of how do we build up this entire engagement model with our customers, so to say, through rewards and some other things. So a lot of AI, we have a SaaS platform. So everything is mapped onto digitally. and we are able to then look at the various cuts and identify solutions around it.
Okay, two more questions. UPI has been a revolutionary technology that we developed in India. What further potential do you see in the future for it? Will it replace other transaction mediums?
So UPI has been an exceedingly successful platform. The number of transactions in UPI is far more than seen in any other platform per se. And during this COVID, we have seen a more usage of UPI because to transfer money, and it's a very secured way of, because the money doesn't move out from your bank account, and you're not sharing your bank account details. You are sharing a UPI handle basis which you can actually transfer money. I think this is a question which has been asked to me in many other forums and panel discussions couple of years back. And that time also I said that we need to, whatever we have built up, a lot of technologies in India, and a lot of work has happened. If you look at with India and outside India, India is far ahead in terms of banking technology solutions. So I think right now we have enough solutions which are there. We need to build more security around those solutions which are critical.
Okay. I'm happy that you're answering all the questions in great detail. One more question coming in. Where do you see Fino 5 years from now?
Fino, 5 years from now, looking at the uncertainty, I can.
Before you answer the question fully, I also want you to give me an honest answer. There's a lot of debate around the payment bank space. A lot of licenses given, a lot of licenses not executed, and the people have dropped out. There are some that are big in brands, but technically not profitable. You're the only profitable. And so I think what you would say would make a lot of relevance in terms of how you see the space, because you're truly doing unbanked, rural, financial inclusion, mass numbers. And so where do you see it? Will these numbers more than double, triple? And your margins are wafer thin. So what is the secret sauce?
See, as I mentioned earlier, the opportunity is really big. And every day when I wake up in the morning, I see there is a lot of things which we can do. We're just trying to work with some education institutes. And there I see there are millions and millions of minor people who are in the 15 to 17 years of age, which would become potentially our customers in the future. So opportunity is really big. For us, the way we look at, and we were also quite sad that when many companies dropped out of the payments bank space, and that kind of questioned the entire payments bank model. But fortunately, those things are of the past, and now we look at future. One thing is for sure is that the people in the rural are bankable people. So that myth which was there 10 years a year back, that rural people are not bankable, so they are bankable. So that problem is addressed now, and there has been models which have been developed on those basis. As far as Fino is concerned, we will continue to focus ourselves on the profitability, on bringing as many products to our customer segments, so that we can be one-stop shop for them for all their financial, and maybe try to work on some non-financial products also through various partnerships which can be worked out. RBI has already given a path to payments bank to convert into a small finance bank. So our endeavor would be, when after a couple of years we convert ourselves to a small finance bank. In that process, the business which we are doing as payments bank, we add more liability products, we add more asset products, and we become think of a small finance bank with 1,500 crores of top line on transaction income. So we do about 80-90 crores of transaction income per month.
Correct.
1,000 crore franchise which we have built up on income. So that will become 1,500 to 2,000. So that will be a very, very big starting point for us. So continue to do whatever we are doing at a much bigger scale, continue to be profitable, morph into a small finance bank. I think those are the 3-4 big things which we are focusing.
So if that were to happen, so would it germinate new payment bank space? Or because if you convert yourself and become a small finance bank, eventually become a big bank in the journey. So is there a play for payment banks? And a related question that has come in, do you feel that the big banks as a threat to new age fintech firms, since they already have a distribution in place and they just need the technology?
So there is obviously, the payments bank has some regulatory issues. Those regulatory issues have to be addressed. till we address those regulatory issues, I don't think so. We will be able to see a lot of interest in the payment bank space, which is coming. There's a lot of interest in the payment space, but not in the payment bank space because of the regulatory requirements and the issues around the regulation. So if you are able to address those issues, you will see renowned interest in the payments bank space. But as RBI has clearly defined their journey of payments bank into small finance bank because they're serving the same customer segment, I think I see more people applying from a small finance bank point of view rather than a payments bank point of view because a lot of payments bank business you can do outside the banking regulation also.
Correct.
It some
Correct.
of the new fintech companies which are working with bank. Coming to your second question in terms of bank thread, I would I would like to take you to a bit. There was the journey which is there. There was one before the the world one journey was where bank used to be the king and bank used to have all the data and bank used to maintain the customer engagement. Then we are the world two where the wallet companies started to come and they started to engage more with the customers and they had the customer they gave a far better customer experience than the banking system used to do. Now we are in a world three stage. The world three is a stage where you work in a collaborative manner. The banks are giving out products which fintechs can use and improve and improvise and sell in the market. So a lot of fintechs are now coming and tying up with the bank to launch a debit card, to launch a UPI product. We have seen the biggest companies like Google and Phone Pay tying up with banks. So they are collaborating with the bank because they don't want to work under the license of a bank, but want to work more on the consumer side of the business. So the consumer experience will definitely improve because the banks and the fintechs will collaborate in the World 3 stage.
Hey, you've answered many questions, and it's been an interesting conversation with you. I can go on with more questions. We are nearly about an hour. I just have one question. Again, a little. How are you coping up with your mental health, physical health, and overall well-being in these challenging times? I mean, what is your favorite serial? What do you watch? Do you watch at all anything on Netflix, Amazon? How are you keeping yourself, and how are you keeping your team equally as young, energetic, smiling, fresh as you are visibly seen on the camera right now?
So on a personal level, I think there's a lot of engagement which is happening with my teams. Whether when we were physically till last week we were going to office, I think another week we'll back in office. About 20% people in our corporate office. So we are doing that engagement on video conference and with the team. On a personal side, I think I do my yoga in the morning, which keeps my mind fresh. And then during the day, I have a small corner in my room where I have a table. Fortunately, we have all those facilities. So I'm able to work independently and without much of disturbance. I think entertainment, and this is what told my team also, that this is once in a lifetime experience that you are able to spend time with family. You are able to do your job as well. So it can never happen. It has never happened in the past for the last 100 years. I don't think it's going to happen at least for the next 30, 40 years, where you will get such a good mix of working from home as well as working with family. So we spend time with the family in the evenings, and I like to watch. So I spend about a day maybe try to do at least every day is watch something on Netflix. I just completed a Marco Polo series, The Breed.
Oh,
So
okay.
so a lot of time has gone into I would say spending time with family. I think that has been one of a very enriching experiences to be locked down in a situation with the family and also able to do work through technology. Imagine, Suresh, if this would have happened 20 years back.
Correct.
None of this was there. It
Correct.
would the world would have completely stopped.
True.
And
True.
so somewhere the COVID is also happened when we could, through technology, we could make all this possible. If
True.
this would have
True.
happened 20 years back, nothing of this could have been possible. I could never virtually have a conversation with you like the way we are having today.
Right. Correct. So Rishi, finally, if you to conclude, I just want you to say for the listeners, what would be your Divya Gyan?
I think I have already shared a lot of it. I think to me, this is a crisis can never go waste. This is a time where you need to spend well on doing things differently. Things which you could never do earlier, you should spend time in doing them today, whether it is with family, in organizations, you should take those decisions which you were wary of taking for some reason in the past. You should move to more digitization, and you should try to build up that culture of working together in a virtual world. Try to find out ways in which you can do that. And the other day, in our annual day thing, when one said, "Sir, I would have loved to be physically and meet you," and I said, "There is no problem. I just gave him a hug over the computer," and and the entire team rallied with me on that. So you have to convert some of these challenges into opportunities. And I said, creating opportunities is something which we are focusing internally as well.
Thank you so much, Rishi. It was a very nice conversation with you. You were very open. You shared all your experience. You brought all your leadership attributes. I personally benefited today during the course of the conversation. We wish you and we wish your team and we wish Fino Bank all the very success. And many thanks for taking the time. Many thanks to all the participants and the viewers. And thank you so much, Fino. Thank you so much to Rishi. We look forward to interacting with you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suresh. You have been an excellent moderator, and knowledge about each other has also been, and our past relationships have also helped us to have a better Q&A session. And so thank you, Suresh. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rishi. Thank you so much. Thank
I
you.
would also like to thank SpeakIn Asia for this opportunity which they have given me.
Thank you.